On for the podcast, trying some music here, a little bit. I don't know. I haven't really done music, intro music with this show. Trying to keep it raw and unfiltered and to the point. But I'll try something new. Anyway, it is what today? It is December 19th, 2022. It's also the day for my dad's birthday, so I don't get to do this tomorrow. Happy birthday, Dad. This topic was inspired by my good friend James. Today, I was at work, and I was gonna do a typical NFL takeaways from the week podcast here, but this topic actually kind of sort of includes that anyway. So in a way, it kind of gets touched on. Now, this year, listen to this, obviously not so much this show, but Nursing Podcast and all the shows I appear on, Huddle Up Podcast, throughout the year. One of the big topics with me, one of the biggest topic points, if you want to call it that, of course, the Coach of the Year conversation has been something that's been highlighted on my end pretty much from the get-go. Now, some of us was, being lighthearted and whatnot, but, it made sense what I was saying, especially halfway through the year. You guys know, through the middle points of the year, midterms, and all that on the podcast, I had said that through 8 weeks, if I had to vote for Coach of the Year at the time, it would have been Brian Daboll in New York. At the time, the Giants were 6-1, and they were obviously they had already surpassed the amount of wins I thought they'd have this year. They were not expected to be good this year, and 8-5-1. This is not necessarily about Brian Daboll. This is about the conversation as a whole. Because at the time, we were discussing, obviously Nick Sirianni was still, in my opinion, right now, at this point, the runaway coach of the year right now, at least at this point. Nick Sirianni was in the conversation. At the time, the Jets were surging. So Robert Saleh, was in the conversation. Pete Carroll, when the Seahawks were playing well, was in the conversation. We had a couple of guys that in the conversation. I believe now the Coach of the Year discussion has altered a little bit now as we get to this final 3 weeks of the year. Now, what hasn't changed here is that Nick Sirianni now, I believe, is... Well, Sirianni was number 2 on my list in the middle of the year. But obviously, when you go 13-1, 13-1 with the Eagles, it's not that the Eagles were not supposed to be good. The Eagles were supposed to be good this year. I had the Eagles win the division. I haven't gone 11-6 when the year started. But when you go 13-1, 3 weeks ago, I got to give you flowers. Okay? But I believe the conversation below Nick Sirianni is actually more interesting because when we were discussing this about a month and a half ago, it was Robert Saleh, it was the Brian Dabolls, it was the, like I said, it was the Pete Carrolls and all those guys, Mike McDaniels in Miami. I think the conversation is altered now in these final weeks to go. So I give you Nick Sirianni wins Coach of the Year right now if he's in this week. But I think we need to look at what's going on in Detroit with Dan Campbell, as I call him Man Campbell on the show, because Dan Campbell and the Lions have turned things around in a dramatic fashion. This team started 1-6, okay? They were sellers at the trading deadline. And all of a sudden, right now, they're 7-7. They're literally a half game or a tie, whatever, out of the playoff race right now in the NFC wildcard race. Okay? And their schedule is pretty lenient going forward. I'm not going to say easy because I think what we're learning now in the NFL is that no game's really easy. Look at Kansas City against Houston yesterday. Houston could have won 2 games the last 2 weeks against 2 playoff teams in Dallas and Kansas City. So that's no game's easy. There's no giveaways here. But Detroit's schedule to end the year, they can easily win out the rest of the year, finish 10-7, and likely make the playoffs. Okay, they close the year out against Carolina on the road, then Green Bay at week 18, and I think the Rams in the middle of that also too as well. So their schedule gets very lenient to end the season. Again, not saying it's going to happen, they're going to win out, but they should be able to win at least 2 out of those 3 games. which puts them at 9-8. And I think if the Detroit Lions make the playoffs, it'd be one of the best turnarounds in history of this league. In-season turnarounds, should I say. And I think Dan Campbell should get some respect for that. I think it's probably the more interesting story, of that. So Dan Campbell should get some love there. Other options. I was looking at Doug Peterson, too, as well. The Jaguars are back in the race now in the AFC South. Because I'm driving on I-95 right now. The Jaguars are right now a game behind the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South. And this was a topic on the podcast last week when I had Kyle Nash on. And we had a long 10-15 minutes of conversation about the Jaguars, their playoff chances. And they got one flip this weekend. Tennessee loses this weekend. They beat Dallas this weekend. And if they can hold serve for 2 more weeks, Week 18 is against the Tennessee Titans again, at home, against a team they've already beaten once. If the Jaguars win that game and win the division, is Doug Peterson also to be considered? Considering this, it's almost similar to what Detroit did as well on their in-season turnaround. I think they were 2-6 1 point, the Jaguars. So, something to think about there. So, replace the Dayballs, replace the Salas, replace the what was I missing? The Pete Carrolls. Insert Peterson, insert Campbell. Obviously, Sirianni is the runaway. I mean, we could consider Andy Reid. The Chiefs 11-3 now. People thought this team was going to come back to earth a little bit, and yet here we are with the Chiefs now, actually in a better pace right now than they were last year with Tyreek Hill. And let's be real here, Tyreek Hill. It ain't like losing Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's a big deal. Okay, Tyreek Hill changes games, changes defenses. He's that big a difference. Look what he's doing Miami this year, for crying out loud. Maybe Andy Reid gets some love there. I mean, who else do you consider in coach of the year? I'll tell you what, Brian Daboll might still have a chance to make some noise. If the Giants could close out this year winning 2 of the next 3 games at least, maybe it's a conversation. Top 3, top 4. Because again, the Giants were supposed to be as good. I still think, even as a Giants fan, I'm saying this, they're not a good team. And yet, they're in this spot right now. We have 8 wins and on the verge of clinching a playoff spot. So, I'm just saying. That's something you should look at. But I think, obviously, if you're having this conversation right now about the coach of the year, it's definitely Nick Sirianni with a bullet. Dude, the 13-1. Okay, that's impressive as hell. But I think below that, you have a very good conversation between Dan Campbell's and Doug Peterson's of the world. I mean, what about Kyle Shanahan? Kyle Shanahan, a Niners team that, okay, we knew they're good on paper, but they're under the third-string quarterback right now, and they're 10-4. Okay, they're under the third-string quarterback. Lose the starting quarterback Trey Lance week 2, get Jimmy G, hold the fort down there, and then he gets hurt. Insert Brock Purdy. Should Kyle Shanahan get some love? He probably should. All I'm saying is that while we all agree that Nick Sirianni is a runaway, and he should be, that we should at least show some respect to a bunch of guys that are doing some great in-season things at this last quarter of the year. And, I don't know. Sirianni will win it, most likely, barring a collapse, which I don't see happening. But I do think the conversation is warranted with a couple other guys. And we have new guys now in the throw in the pool right now of who should at least be considered the coach of the year. So that's just my 2 cents on this. So that's enough for me. I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow, and enjoy your Monday.